Okay, don't go away. The Power Panel Express is coming up with Supriya Dwivedi, Jenny Byrne, Kathleen Monk, and Jason Markusoff. There they are.
It was wonderful to see Elizabeth's statement yesterday. Certainly a statement of support and encouragement is always welcome.
Okay, welcome back. That was Green Party leader Annamie Paul just this morning thanking former leader Elizabeth May for a statement of support yesterday. But this afternoon, the party itself hit back at Paul. Legal action trying to revive efforts to have Paul removed as a leader through the courts. So what does this mean for Paul's leadership? The Power Panel is here from west to east to Ottawa. Maclean's Jason Markusoff is in Calgary. In Burlington, Ontario, Supriya Dwivedi is with Enterprise Canada. In Lindsay, Ontario, Jenny Byrne, a former top staffer to Prime Minister Harper, and Ontario Premier Ford, now a principal at Jenny Byrne and Associates. And Earnscliffe Strategy Group's Kathleen Monk is in Ottawa. Hello to you all.
Hello. Hi.
So, Supriya, with friends like these, who needs enemies? What's your take on this latest drama in the Green Party?
Look, I think last week I was joking about how the Greens were going to reveal some sort of Mean Girl style burn book. And as facetious as I was being at the time, I didn't think my burn book scenario would have somehow been better for the party than the reality that is right now of them initiating a legal proceeding, continuing to diminish Annamie's leadership in public like this. This is just a dumpster fire of all dumpster fires. And I cannot begin to understand why the Green Party would be doing this in such a public manner so close to the election when environmental issues are top of mind for so many voters right now in this country.
Yeah, Kathleen, it's really something to see the Green Party of Canada and the Green Party Fund of Canada taking legal action against the leader of the Green Party of Canada to overturn an arbitration that she started to stop their non-confidence vote in her leadership.
Exactly, and the speed at which it's moving, David, where just this morning, and you played a clip, but there's another clip on Toronto radio station where Annamie Paul was actually saying, finally, we have the clarity and the certainty for candidates and volunteers around my leadership. And then a few hours later, we see this. I mean, Supriya hits it on the head. Like, certainly talking about the leadership of a party at any time is not great for the party's polling numbers. It doesn't, instill confidence in folks who want to support that party. But this goes to election, it's just dangerous. I honestly don't know if I've seen anything like this where leaders, credibility, from its own party is being this challenged, this close to an election call and being battled out now in the courts.
Yeah, Jenny, parties often like to get earned media in the pre-writ period, and the Greens have certainly cracked the code on that, but I'm just not sure if this is the direction they want this to be going. It seems like there is no way a peaceful resolution will come to this unless the Green Party National Council is completely removed and replaced with Annamie Paul supporters.
Well, and that's not going to happen before the election. And so there is one person that could step up and actually be supportive. I think that Annamie Paul thanked Elizabeth May for her supportive statement, but I think it was anything but helpful for Annamie Paul. It was extremely cold. It thanked the Green Party supporters, the Green Party executive, volunteers, and the Green Party itself. But her statement never mentioned Annamie Paul, except say that the leader has basically asked us to not speak in public. So I think this is a huge turning point for the Greens. If Elizabeth May wanted to have stayed as leader, she probably should have stayed as leader instead of the backroom stuff that she's doing.
Yeah, well, Jason, people accuse Elizabeth May of that. She denies that she's had any role in it, but, we're not getting any interviews. But, the Greens said they were different, and they sure are doing it differently right now, Jason.
They are, yeah, they absolutely are. They have stripped their leader of staff. They have denied her funding to win her very difficult riding in Toronto Centre. And it's clear not only is it that the party and the Green Canada Fund are fighting this in court, it reveals that this whole process reveals in court now that Annamie Paul's only leader right in this vote, thus from happening this week because of arbitration. When you're this far gone and an arbitrator has to basically create the peace between you and your party executive and party brass, this is an utter mess. I can't imagine why anybody, not only somebody who's in a racialized or Jewish or woman, why anybody would want to be become a leader of this party when they know that the party executive will act like this?
Yeah, it's just an endless cycle of litigation, arbitration, character assassination, and no resolution. And this is all happening, Supriya, in the run-up to a campaign. And I just wonder, how do you pull out of a nosedive this profound?
I don't think you can. And maybe I'm being too pessimistic or cynical here, but I honestly cannot see a way out for the Greens on this current trajectory without there being some sort of a major crash or explosion first.
Okay, I'm David Cochran. We're going to talk about vaccine passports and the politics around today's anti-Semitism summit coming up on Power and Politics. The Greens, we'll talk about them again another day.
These are the actions of a small group of outgoing councillors. This was not an action sanctioned by our federal council. It is not an action that came before our federal council. And so I am asking people to just have patience as we transition.
Okay, Green Party leader Annamie Paul playing defense again today. The Green Party's federal council and the Green Party Fund are trying to revive the leadership non-confidence vote, this time using the courts. Paul says all parties have been through some version of this leadership struggle. Have they? The power panel is here for one last round. Emily, Rebecca, James, and Amanda. So, Amanda, let's start with you. On a scale of Chrétien, Turner, Chrétien, Martin, Harper, Day, where does this race?
I mean, isn't this kind of off the charts at this point? I mean, the fact that she has to, 2 days after this vote seems to disappear, say, I'm asking everybody to have patience. And what she's really saying is, well, we self-implode. To watch this happen mere, weeks away from what is anticipated to be the next election, and to watch the snowball effect of it. Like, the thing continues to have legs. You almost want to jump through whatever device you're listening to this happen to take them by their shoulders and be like, people, you know that there's an election around the corner. Why do this to yourselves? Why do this to the party? And this isn't just speculation. You see the numbers. They're losing support nationally. They're losing support in regions where they've always held support. So it's devastating. And those numbers may seem small across the country, but they're big numbers for the Green Party. They really matter.
Rebecca, you've sat on a party federal council, and I know there can be disagreements, but have you ever been subjected to arbitration to resolve a non-confidence vote and then turned around and sued the leader to resolve it?
No, I've spent probably far more time on federal councils than anybody should, and I can tell you that this situation is totally bizarre. And what it says to me is that it's out of control. And that, Annamie Paul may want to believe, and it may even be true that it's just a few people. But if those few people have this much power, the Green Party has a problem. Now, to be fair to the Green Party, they were already in trouble even before this happened. Yeah. Their numbers weren't good to begin with, but they're definitely getting worse. And, regular folks are noticing, wow, if this small group of folks can't even organize themselves to sort of get along and put a decent face towards the public, then I don't think they're people that I'm going to be wanting to vote for. And, as a result, they haven't really been able to get much done in this parliament either. They haven't been there fighting for Canadians throughout this pandemic. They've been caught up in these internal battles, and we're seeing that in the polls.
I have a federal council question, Rebecca, if you can indulge me, because Annamie Paul keeps saying this is a small group of councillors. But for the Green Party Fund and the Green Party of Canada to file an action in Superior Court against their leader, it has to be at least a majority of the National Council to be able to take such an action, right? Like a minority of councillors can't do this, correct?
I mean, unless they're doing it as individuals, which would be totally weird. Yeah. But from my understanding, they're doing it as Green Party members.
That's what the court papers say. Yeah, it's the Green Party of Canada and the Green Party of Canada Fund.
Yeah, they would have to be a small number that represents a majority of the people on the council, because councils vote. And, these things have to go through the executive. So there's definitely a lot more going on here than, the leader is wanting us to believe. Maybe that's hope because she's still hopeful that there'll be some kind of resolution. But yeah, this just doesn't happen. And then to have Elizabeth May come out with a statement that doesn't really support the leader, also not helpful. I think there's a much bigger movement here than is being acknowledged by the leader. And, you know, this has got to be horrible for her, but it really is remarkable. It's a remarkable situation.
Emily, one of the things I find remarkable trying to cover this is Annamie Paul does interviews. She takes questions. She leans into it and she defends her position. Nobody else from the Green Party will accept invitations to come on, will answer questions on the record, will do anything even remotely courageous in this fight. They're kind of just lurking in the background on it. So, like, how do you put Humpty Dumpty back together again when they just keep smashing the eggshells at every opportunity?
Yeah, it's a weird thing for me to observe because it's not necessarily about what's being said, it's about who's basically not saying anything. For example, Elizabeth May, even Monday, when you know the vote of non-confidence was dropped, her statement was so vague. It was absolutely not "yes, I trust this leader" at all, and so it was more like a truce than a peace treaty. We're not hearing from the members. We were just talking earlier about the Liberal Party, but here in Quebec, we've had a lot of drama historically coming from the Parti québécois, and as well some of it internally as well with Quebec Solidaire, because you have strong membership that is very diverse, that is organized in subgroups, subcommittees that are, you know, that have a voice as well internally. And you're not seeing anything like that in the Green Party. If Green Party members are not okay with what's going on with their party, there must be some sort of coalition committee, whatnot group, Facebook group, something that comes up and say, hey, we're Green Party members and this is where we stand. And as long as we don't have this voice, if we only have information in the public, what the leader is saying, and then some lawsuit papers, that doesn't give me the impression that we're having a healthy democratic, you know, culture, even if it's going to be a party that doesn't, you know, function like the other parties and have more, say, power for its executive versus only concentrated in the leadership. So that's an okay way to function. But if it's going to be like that, then if you say you're having trouble because you're having healthy democracy, then show it and have a membership that's actually vocal in those issues.
Yeah, James, I think they are correct when they say they don't operate like the other parties. We're seeing that now. But like the Green Federal Council elections aren't going to be held until August 19th. We could be a week, 2 weeks into the federal election campaign by then. I mean, how do they rebound out of this with the vote so obviously so close?
Well, the Green Party is not a serious party. They're not a credible party, and they're not even a vaguely professional political party. Out here in British Columbia, where they have their 2 remaining seats in the provincial election that happened earlier this year, the past leader of the Green Party, who actually gave them their beachhead, Dr. Andrew Weaver, endorsed John Horgan openly, never helped the federal Green Party. And then you have this mess. Look, Annamie Paul, whatever her capabilities are as a leader, she won the leadership. And in a democracy, the majority has rights. And when you win the leadership, you have the right to lead your party. And if people get in your way, then they're the people who are acting undemocratically. And if they oppose Annamie Paul because she's done something illegal or unethical, then they should say so and call her out on that and do so publicly and clearly and resign their positions in protest and make it publicly known and then work to replace her democratically within the system of governance within their party. All of this that is happening right now is a clown show. It's undemocratic, it's wrong, and it's unfair to Annamie Paul. And I think this executive council, all of whom seem to be anonymous cowards who are unwilling to do this publicly, I think doing a great disservice to good Canadians who put their support in the past behind the Green Party. But all those good Canadians should absolutely find a new home in the next election campaign, because this party is unsupportable, unprofessional, and I think an embarrassment to themselves.
Amanda, where would those disaffected supporters go? I mean, who does this, the enemy of my enemy, who is the friend who benefits from all of this?
Well, I think it's going to depend a lot on where they feel like the policies will best meet their needs. Will this be a values conversation? I mean, certainly on the East Coast, we're seeing the numbers rising for the Liberal Party. On the West Coast, maybe we're seeing some of those numbers go to the NDP. And then it may come down to just pocket by pocket, riding by riding. It could be a personality play. So I don't know if there's one place that it will go, but we're seeing those numbers deteriorate ever since Atwin crossed the floor to the Liberal Party. We're seeing the numbers particularly deteriorate on the East Coast.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. That was a lot of fun. That was a heck of a conversation, guys. Appreciate that. Emily, Rebecca, James, and Amanda, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The these are the actions of a small group of outgoing councillors. This was not an action sanctioned by our federal council. It is not an action that came before our federal council. And so I am asking people to just have patience as we transition.
That is the Green Party leader, Annamie Paul, yesterday saying the fight over her leadership was just with a small group of councillors. But last night, the Green Party president released a statement to party members that says, in part, "We have arrived at this point in time because these legal proceedings were initiated in the first place by Annamie Paul, not the GPC. That must be made clear. Secondly, these proceedings, as initiated by Ms. Paul, were meant to be conducted in private without the full view of members. Why the secrecy? You can only ask Ms. Paul." So who's going to come out on top in this fight? I don't even know who wants to come out on top in this fight. The power panel is with me for one last round. Paul, Marty, Kelly, and Nigon. And Marty, I'll start with you on this. I mean, I noticed she's not only just saying a small group, but outgoing. She really emphasized outgoing. So I am wondering, is she just trying to rag the puck until the people causing her trouble go away?
But even if she does rag the puck, look, this is a soap opera, and I've lost track of how many acts we're at. I think we're at 6 or 7 acts. If there is a problem with Miss Annamie Paul in the party, beliefs, policy, personality, what have you, yes, by all means, discuss it, get rid of it. You voted her in October. Let her do her job. And the real politic of this issue is you are hurting the party right now, right before an election. They were at 7 and change the last election. I'm guessing that they're probably going to be within margin of error in the next election. Like they're not going after a human being. They're going after the entire party, and they're destroying years and years of hard work that this party has done. And it's sad to watch. There's elements of this in the Parti Québécois. When the Parti Québécois has a problem with the leader, they have a very outgoing, front-facing fight with everybody, and the party goes down in flames as a result. It seems like the exact same thing's happening with the Green Party of Canada.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, I have a hard time understanding how this ends well for anybody. And obviously the NDP, but even the Liberals, according to Angus Reid, are benefiting from this disarray. And now the party's basically saying they want it all out in the open, that they don't want it to be secretive. They want it to be all out there, which seems to me a recipe for it actually getting worse, if that's even possible.
The cleanest way for this problem to go away is for either a pro-Annamie Paul slate or an anti-Annamie Paul slate of federal council candidates to be elected to the new federal council in mid-August, which will probably be just before a federal election is called, although it may actually be underway when that happens. We'll find out soon enough. It's clear that the current federal council and Annamie Paul can't work together. Unfortunately, when Ms. Paul comes out and says to the country, we've put our problems behind us, it's now clear, because she's tried to do that 2 or 3 times, that she's not saying something that's true. I believe that the federal council are the ones who need to give their head a shake. And since that's not going to happen, then I think everyone needs to hope for clarity after the next federal council election, but there's no guarantee. The thing that strikes me is that the dispute is over. Marty talks about the Parti Québécois sometimes giving a thumping to its leaders. At least the Parti Québécois administers those thumpings over the central issue of the Parti Québécois' existence, which is the way to achieve a sovereign Quebec. This is about attitudes towards Israel and its neighbors, a region of the country that could not, a region of the world that could not care less what the Green Party of Canada thinks about it. Meanwhile, I was told by Elizabeth May in 2019 that the planet is burning, and you'd think maybe a Green Party could get its head out of its butt long enough to concentrate on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, you know, it's plain spoken, but, you know, obviously that is sort of where we're at. And it's hard to see, Kelly, how, you know, even if they do have a new council and that council backs her, it just feels like the damage is done. And you can't help but be struck by how this party really is struggling with a leader after, you know, being replaced by they replace a strong predecessor, it just feels like Elizabeth May is still looming over all of this. I'm not saying she's responsible, don't get me, but I'm just saying the party was so defined by her leadership, and they just seem to be flailing. And, people said the same thing about the Conservatives, that it has struggled since the departure of Stephen Harper. And I know that Paul's got a view on that, but I'm going to start with Kelly on that.
Yeah, and speaking of Elizabeth May, she put out a statement a couple days ago talking about listening to party members and council members and saying they elected the leader. And it's hard for me to recount the exact words because it was such, it was dry. It was a dry toast statement. It's hard to remember because she essentially said nothing. She said something like the Green Party exists. And you have Elizabeth May and her role in the party.
And even that is debatable, by the way, because I think everyone's wondering. Anyway, carry on.
Stole my line. It's, the worst squabbles in politics are internal party squabbles, and you have to wonder if the damage is already done, given that it's this close to the election. And what are voters who would have considered voting Green thinking at this point? They're thinking it's a party in disarray. It's a party that can't get its act together. Are you willing to take a chance on a party that is in single digits when it comes to popularity and give them your vote? I think that would be a big question. And it would be amazing if they're somehow, it's not impossible, of course, but it would be amazing if they're somehow able to come back to that. And, on the issue of what this is really about, it's obviously, it's like when leadership gets into a spiral at a certain point, the original issue that the argument was about, it kind of gets thrown to the side anyways. This was about Israel, but now it has become about leadership, about trust, about whether they can work together. And that's a bigger problem than any single policy issue.
I have to say, I'm also curious to know what different environmental groups think about all of this as well. Some may support the Liberals NDP or Conservatives, I suppose, if they have policies that they support. But for a lot of environmentalists, the Greens were the political vehicle. And I do have to wonder, Nigon, just what they're thinking as they watch this party implode.
Oh, absolutely. And my daughter and her friends are all either just before voting age or voting age. And so this will be their first time around that they either care about or can participate in a federal election. And this week, by watching what's happening to the Green Party, they all overwhelmingly, almost 100% support the Green Party. Why? Because every morning when we wake up, we can smell the burning of northern Manitoba all the way to stretching to BC. We can see the smoke here in Manitoba. There's daily hazes, and there's 150 fires burning in Manitoba right now. There is no party that should be taking the lead on that issue than the Green Party, but they're too busy squabbling in Toronto, which I think is much more of a regional issue. I think you've got a Toronto-centered movement which has been conflicting now with an outside of Toronto movement. And I think you're seeing that particularly with the lukewarm response from Elizabeth May and the whole issue around supporting Annamie Paul within the streets of Toronto. But we've got young people who are asking the question, what does Israel and Palestine have to do with a world that's burning? And they're really interested to hear, why is it that the Green Party is so quiet, not taking the lead on what should be the most important issue of our age, where the Green Party is on the verge of a major breakthrough. They're the opposition in Prince Edward Island. They're picking up seats in provincial elections. They've got more seats than any time in history, of course, since before the crossing by Atwin. And I mean, the issue is that the Green Party had the opportunity here, and I say that past tense intentionally, to make such a major breakthrough, but has stepped on its own feet and is imploding before our very eyes, and is frankly being the laughingstock of the left-wing side of the spectrum at the moment, where people are turning away and looking back at the NDP and saying, let's give them a second or third or fourth shot.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap her up there, unfortunately. Great chat. Nigon and Kelly and Paul and Marty, thank you all. Really appreciate you taking the time, as always, and I've enjoyed chatting with you over the last number of weeks as I've hosted the program, so thanks so much.
Yeah, me glad for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, you guys.